Hey guys, it is so good to see all of you. I hope everyone's doing all right so far today. My name is Adam. I'm one of the pastors here at all of our campuses, each of our network churches, and to each of you with us online, we are so glad, overjoyed that you've decided to come and worship with us here today. Today we are in a series that we are calling Deconstruct, and I shared this last week. This word has really become a buzzword, and depending on who you talk with, you will get a very different response on this word. Like there are some people who love deconstructing and talking about deconstructing, and they can't read enough blog posts and podcasts and all of this, while there are other people who would argue that this whole topic is from Satan himself. And I also know that there are a whole bunch of us here today who are brand new to this word. And so I want to start by giving us a definition of this word. To keep it as simple as I can, deconstruct means to take apart or examine something. To take apart or examine something. Like this camera over here, it's been deconstructed, right? Literally, our creation staff ended up taking apart this camera, and they took it apart, and as a result, we're able to examine and look at each of these different parts. And so when it comes to our faith, when it comes to our relationship with God, when we say deconstruct, it means to take apart and examine what we believe about Jesus, to take apart and examine what we believe about the Bible, to take apart and examine what we believe about the church. Now, again, depending on who you talk with, you will get a very different response on this word, and you will also get a very different definition of this word. But I would argue in itself, deconstructing our faith is not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. But today I do want to share, and I shared this last week, and this is so important. It is one thing to deconstruct something, and it is another thing to destroy it. Again, it is one thing to deconstruct something, and it's another thing altogether to destroy it. These two words do not equal each other. It's one thing to remodel a house, and it's another thing to burn a house down. Right? It's one thing to remodel a room, to change some things, and it's another thing to take a bulldozer to the house as a whole. And the same is true when it comes to God. Like it's one thing to examine and to evaluate our faith, to examine and take apart what we believe about Jesus, and another thing altogether to completely walk away from all of it, to completely walk away from God and all that He is. Now, as I started studying for and working on this series, one of the main things that I quickly found is the fact that so often people begin to deconstruct their faith, and as a result, people begin to walk away from Jesus. Why? Because of the fake versions of Jesus that they've seen, because of the fake versions of Jesus they've been told, because of the fake versions of Jesus that they grew up with. Okay? And just to say it, there are so many different fake versions of Jesus that are out there. I promise you, there are so many. And so I just want to share a few of them with you. And by the way, my goal in sharing them is to offend every single one of you, okay? That's my goal. No, really. Sorry, but not sorry. And so when it comes to fake versions of Jesus, the first version is the you're going to hell Jesus. You're going to hell Jesus. And this version of Jesus doesn't actually love people, but they do love. They do love standing on street corners, yelling so that they can tell everybody driving by that they are in fact going to hell. That's the first version. The second version, fake version of Jesus, I call Murica Jesus. Murica Jesus. This Jesus has long blonde hair and blue eyes, and they're actually not from Nazareth. Believe it or not, they're from Montana, okay? And this Jesus likes guns and fireworks, and their favorite holiday of the year is not Christmas or Easter. That's what you would think. It's actually the 4th of July, okay? And this Jesus, they put their country even before God himself. Another fake version of Jesus is the single issue Jesus. This is the Jesus that is laser focused on one specific hot button issue. Whether it's the environment, global warming, abortion, gun reform, gun rights, this one issue, believe it or not, is even more important than the resurrection of Jesus in itself. This one thing trumps all of it. Quick pause, by the way, just to quote the great philosopher Nelly. It's getting hot in here, okay? It's getting hot. I am getting so hot. I promise I'll never do that ever again, okay? Another fake version of Jesus is the sleeps around Jesus. This is the Jesus who looks and acts like they are perfect. They are holier than thou, and yet on the side, they don't want to mention the fact that they are sleeping with someone other than their spouse. Another version is private jet Jesus. This is the Jesus who asked for your money only to pad their own bank account. And if you just had a little more faith, and you, ma'am, if you had a little more faith, and you, sir, up there, if you had just a little more faith, then God would give you a mansion too. One last thing, there's the do as I say, not as I do Jesus. This Jesus preaches one thing while doing something very, very different. This Jesus looks one way on a Sunday morning and then looks a completely different way Monday through Saturday. And I seriously only wish we had more time, because there's campaign Jesus, there's cover-up Jesus, there's the post-a-lots Jesus, the abusive Jesus, the social justice Jesus, the white Jesus and the refugee Jesus, the prosperity Jesus, the hippie Jesus, the bigot Jesus, the rule-following Jesus. Again, there are so many different fake versions of Jesus that are out there. Just to pause again for a second, do I need to quote another philosopher? Maybe Taylor Swift, maybe Snoop Dogg, drop it like it's hot, drop it like it's hot. Okay, I'll never do that again either, okay? Now, just to be clear, I can't believe I just quoted Snoop Dogg in church. Lord, forgive us all, okay? Just to be clear, most of these versions of Jesus are blatantly terrible. Blatantly terrible. But with a few of them, yes, there is some truth in them. Yes, sure, I'll give you that. But even still, here's my point. Every single one of these Jesus, they're still fake. They all in some way miss the mark. And so if this is the version of Jesus that you've been sold, if this is the version of Jesus you've been told about, if this is the version of Jesus that you grew up with, it shouldn't surprise us whatsoever that we're tempted to walk away from this version of Jesus. Like, it's no wonder that you'd want to deconstruct your faith. Actually, as your pastor, I would encourage you to do that if you have a fake version. Why? Because each and every one of these versions of Jesus is not the real thing. Not the real thing. Get this, they're all a version of Jesus that's someone other than God. To be more direct, they're all a version of Jesus that someone or a group of people came up with. They're not the real thing. You see, as I was studying for this series, the main reason that a person deconstructs their faith is what? It's people. Why? It's not because of Jesus, it's because of people. Seriously, most of the time, people don't walk away from Jesus, people walk away from people. Again, most of the time, not all the time, there are some few, most of the time, people don't walk away from Jesus, people walk away from people. Literally, every place I read, in every place I listened where people were sharing why they walked away from God, I kept waiting for someone to mention Jesus. I kept waiting for them to mention a teaching of his that they disagree with, historical facts. I just kept waiting for something about Jesus, and yet over and over again, each place just kept saying people. If you kind of follow their argument, it came down to people. I had questions and doubts about my faith because of people. I began to deconstruct. I began to walk away from God. I began to walk away from Jesus because of people, more specifically, because of Christians and the church. Because of Christians and the church. Religious people who misrepresented Jesus. Churchy people who distorted Jesus. People who said and did things in the name of God that were wrong and just plain evil. People who might follow Jesus, but they don't always act like Jesus. It's people. It's people. Now, friends, this isn't anything new. This isn't new at all. I would actually argue there are a few things that are genuinely new under the sun. It's not new whatsoever. I want to read one story where Jesus himself is being questioned by religious leaders and religious people, and In response, just listen to what takes place. Then Jesus said to the crowd and to his disciples, while the religious people were there, he says, the teachers of religious law and the Pharisees are the official interpreters of the law of Moses. So practice and obey whatever they tell you, but don't follow their example, for they don't practice what they teach. They crush people with unbearable religious demands and never lift a finger to ease the burden. Everything they do is for a show. Ouch, Jesus. What sorrow awaits you, teachers of religious law, and you Pharisees, hypocrites. For you shut the door of the kingdom of heaven in people's faces. For you cross land and sea to make one convert, and then you turn that person into twice the child of hell that you yourselves are. I'm just saying, this is incredibly heavy. Just so we know, this is some of the harshest, heaviest, most direct words that you will find from Jesus in the entire Bible. And Jesus is talking here to the crowds about the religious people. They're standing here and he's telling the crowds and he's warning them, the religious people, don't follow their example. Don't follow their example. They crush people with unbearable demands. They shut people out of heaven and they turn people into children of hell. Jesus is saying they don't represent me. Don't base your thoughts about me off of them. It's a fake Jesus. It's not the real thing. So don't base your understanding of who I am off of them. It's fake. Just so we don't miss this, Jesus is telling the crowds and his disciples, he's telling them, you need to deconstruct. You need to take apart and examine what's true about me and what's not true. And then Jesus goes on to point out all these things that are just plain wrong. Once again, most of the time, not all the time, most of the time, people don't walk away from Jesus. People walk away from people. Most of the time. Now, I just want to challenge myself for a minute, and maybe you need to be challenged as well. It is so easy to read these stories in the Bible and get angry at the religious teachers. More direct, it's easy in our day-to-day lives for you and I to get angry at other Christians. One of my favorite all-time quotes, it's not Jesus I struggle with, it's his annoying fan club. Amen? I've shared this before, the deepest single hurt that I've ever experienced in my life has been from Christians. There's not even a close second. At one part of it, it hurt so much that it made me examine and reevaluate so much of my faith. But here's the challenge to myself and maybe to you. People are just people. More direct, people are not God. They're not God. Instead, people, they're broken, weak, arrogant, narcissistic cowards. Instead, people, they're self-centered, ungrateful jerks. Is there any words that you want me to include in the lineup? And yet, who do other people remind me of? Myself. People, don't even get me started about people. They're self-centered, self-righteous, arrogant jerks. They think only about themselves. And yet, who do they remind me of? All of us. All of us. Not me, Pastor. Actually, specifically you. I'm glad that you brought that up. I was actually thinking right about you. All of us. When I first became a Christian, I'd hear about a pastor having a moral failure, embezzling money, sleeping with someone they're not supposed to sleep with, or something bad about the church would be in the news, and it used to really shake me up, and I'd find myself questioning my faith. But now, honestly, it actually points me to Jesus even more. And it's almost like God reminds me, Adam, they're not me. They're not me. Adam, don't put them on a pedestal. They're human. They're just people. They're not me. Friends, even with me as your pastor, I promise you, I will let you down. I promise you. Specifically, if we have any connection, any amount of time together, I promise you, I will disappoint you. Honestly, oftentimes I find myself trying to get off the pedestals that people put me on. And Adam, you're so good and you're so great. All the while I'm looking for a ladder. I'm like, is there a way down off of this thing? Because one of my greatest fears in life is that I'll be a person, I'll be a pastor that will turn other people away from Jesus. It's something I lose sleep over. Honestly, I know at points I have. Now, all of this, it doesn't let anyone off the hook, myself included, far from it. Actually, if you're a Jesus follower, maybe today God just wants you to evaluate, what version of Jesus am I portraying to the people around me? What version of Jesus do I portray on social media? What version of Jesus do I portray in arguments and disagreements about this and that? What about my attitude? What version of Jesus, what fake versions of Jesus exist within my life? God, would you show them to me? What I'm trying to say is this, again, people are people, they're not Jesus. And intellectually speaking, on this topic of deconstructing our faith, it wouldn't make any rational sense. This is gonna be a strong statement. Like intellectually, you can't do this. Intellectually, you can't leave God because of people rather than because of Jesus. Specifically, when this is exactly the reason and argument that Jesus said he came for. He came because we're imperfect, because we're self-righteous, because we're self-centered, because we're, it doesn't say, Jesus, I came because everybody's perfect and you can trust everybody. When they say they're gonna show up on Facebook Marketplace, you can trust that they will show up exactly on time every single time. It doesn't say that anywhere in the Bible. Nowhere. Shows the worst of humanity. I'm like, this is why Jesus came, right here. He came because people are imperfect. On this topic of deconstructing our faith, Christians and the church are such a big tripping point for people, and rightfully so. And over the last 10 to 20 years in particular, it is a good thing that scandals and abuse within the church are coming to the surface. It's a good thing that truth and that secrets and lies and deception and garbage are coming to the surface. This is always a good thing, but I have to say it, and I just want you to consider this. Sin, lies, abuse, deception, this is not just a Christian problem or a church problem. This is a human problem. A human problem. And yes, Christianity needs to address some things, no doubt, but this is a human problem. And one fear that I do have is if you're currently in high school or college right now, there's a high chance that the only thing you've ever heard about Christians in the church is the abuse and the scandals and the cover-ups and the deception and lies. I mean, more often than not, and I don't say this any snarkiness, social media and the media and the academic world is not always super friendly towards the church. And I'm not saying that to play the victim card here at all. We deserve it. All I'm saying is there's a high chance that you've only ever heard the bad. Just to stress this, I'm not trying to minimize anything bad about church history. Again, just something to think about. We don't leave medicine because of bad doctors. We don't leave education because of bad teachers. My mom was a teacher and a principal. We don't leave science because of bad scientists. If you do a quick Google search, there has been plenty of bad/evil doctors and teachers and scientists. Yes, in the name of God, people have done horrible things. But what we might forget or just not know is that Christians in the church, they actually started hospitals and universities, not vice versa. Literally, our healthcare system and education was started by the church. And more than that, as a society, as humans, so many of the things that we value, so many of the things that are common sense to us, things that culture almost seems to claim as theirs, things like people being created equal and women not being property, even the end of slavery itself, it all came from Jesus through the church. Like it didn't exist before then. And it's actually kind of ironic to think about, but when the world calls out the church and when the world criticizes Christians, what they're actually saying, the world is saying, church, you're not Christian enough. Hey, Christians, you're not like Jesus enough. Once again, most of the time, not all the time, people don't walk away from Jesus. People walk away from people. I want to go back to that story, to that scene that we looked at earlier one more time. Again, Jesus being questioned by the religious leaders. And Jesus begins to talk to the crowd in the presence of the religious people, and he's telling the crowd, and he's warning them, the religious people, don't follow their example. Jesus is saying that they don't represent me. Don't base your thoughts about who I am, who God is, based off of them. They're a fake Jesus. It's not real. Again, Jesus tells the crowd to deconstruct, to take apart and examine what's true about me and what's not true about me. And then in the same scene, Jesus, he goes on to say this. Jesus says, don't let anyone call you rabbi, for you have only one teacher. And don't let anyone call you instructor, for you have only one instructor, the Messiah. So don't miss this. This is so important. Jesus is saying, don't look at people, look at Jesus. Jesus is saying, don't look at other people, even rather religious people. Don't base your thoughts about God and who I am off of them. Don't look at people. Look at Jesus. Jesus is saying, look at me. Like the way that Christian hurt you, the way that Christian mistreated you, judged you, mocked you, made you feel like an outsider. The hypocritical Christian that says one thing and did another. The things that pastor said and did to you in the name of Jesus. The way that your family was treated and hurt by the church. Jesus is saying, none of this is okay. This is not okay, but also this is not me. It's not me. Don't look at people. Look at Jesus. Jesus is saying, do you want to know what's true? Do you want to know the real Jesus? Do you want to know who I really am? Jesus is saying, listen to my words. Look at me. Follow my example. Jesus says, I am your teacher. I am your rabbi. I am your instructor if you want to know who I am. Jesus says, look at me. Look at me. Don't look at other people. Look at me. Look at me. Jesus is saying, look at me. Okay, so next week, we're going to be talking about doubts and wrestling with questions, specifically questions that show up when life happens. But today, I just want to invite you to consider doing something. If you are here and you are questioning your faith, if you are here and you're wrestling with doubts, if you are here and you find yourself wanting to walk away from Jesus, I just want to have you evaluate this simple question. Am I walking away from Jesus or from people? If you find yourself really struggling, you're just like, I am just at this place in my life. I'm at this place in my faith journey. I'm into this place where I'm really, really wrestling with things. I just want to invite you, am I walking away from Jesus or from people? And I might say one thing, but really look at your heart. Really look at your motives. Look at like where it's coming from. Am I walking away from Jesus or from people? And if it is people that you're walking away from, I just want to invite you to give Jesus a chance. To give Jesus a chance. Like seriously, to look at Jesus. If this is you, my encouragement, I can't encourage you enough, just begin to open up the Bible yourself. And to begin to read and hear about Jesus, to actually see his words. It seems like so many of us have thoughts about Jesus and opinions about Jesus, but very few of us seem to have read about Jesus ourselves. And so if that's you, I just want to challenge you to open up the Bible and just begin reading the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and just begin to see like who does Jesus say that he is? Instead of taking my word or someone else's words, just begin to I just want to see what Jesus actually has to say. What does Jesus say? For all of those, though, all of us, none of us can claim to know every little detail about Jesus. If you ever meet someone who claims to know every specific thing, it's actually a red flag that might be a fake version of Jesus hanging out, okay? I mean, no one knows what Jesus liked for breakfast. None of us do. No one knows what kind of sandals Jesus wore on the beach. You know what I'm saying? If we find out that it was Crocs, I might need to deconstruct my faith and walk away from that fake version of Jesus, because that cannot be Jesus, right? But truly, though, all of us have assumptions about Jesus. All of us see life through these lenses. All of us have things that, like assumptions about Jesus based on our lives, the good, bad, and otherwise, that has shaped us. And so it is so good and it's so important just to continually ask the question and just say to Jesus, Jesus, I want to see you. Jesus, I want to see you. That'd be my greatest encouragement today. If it's nothing else today, this morning, later this week, throughout the rest of this month, that you just begin to pray, Jesus, I want to see you. Capital U, I want to see you. Jesus, today, would you help me to let go of the fake versions of Jesus that I've held on to? Would you help me to let go of these fake versions of Jesus that I'm picking apart, which keeps me from actually following you, Jesus? But would you just help me to let go of that? Would you help me to let go of these fake versions that a pastor told me at one point in my life? Would you just help me to let go of that? Would you help me to let go of these versions of Jesus that causes a lot of bitterness in me? Would you just help me to let go of everything that is not you? And with Jesus, I want to see you. I want to see you. That's my hope. That's my prayer. Jesus, I just want to see you. Now today, for many of us, we're here and we're already on this journey of following Jesus. And over the last couple of weeks, the last couple of months, the last couple of years, possibly longer, the last couple of decades, Jesus is becoming more real to us. And we're beginning to see more of who Jesus really is. And I don't know about you, but when I begin to see more of who Jesus is, my heart's greatest cry is, Jesus, I just want more. I just want more. I get a glimpse of his truth. I get a glimpse of his love and his grace and his faithfulness and his gentleness. And it's just like, Jesus, I just want more. I just want more. I just want more. I want more of your patience in my life because I don't have any. I want more of your peace. I want more of your attitude, more of the way you see people, more of the way that you see see life as a whole. God, I want more of your guidance, even if it challenges me. I just want more because I don't know how to explain it, but I just want more of you. I just want more of you. I just want more of whatever it is I'm feeling inside. I just want more of whatever's changing in my life. I'm starting to make decisions that I never thought I would make. I'm starting to change. People are starting to ask me what's different about me. I don't know all the answers, but I just want more of you. Anybody just want more? You're just like, I just want more of you, Jesus. I just want more. I don't want the fake version. I just want more of you. I know for some of you, at your lowest moments, you met Jesus. I know for some of you, in a season of grief, Jesus comforted you. He did. He showed up. I know some of you were struggling with anxiety. Some of you were struggling with panic attacks, and you didn't know what was happening. In that moment, Jesus came and calmed you. I know some of you, even now, are battling addiction, and yet day to day, one day at a time, Jesus, he gives you freedom. I know for some of you, you're questioning, is life even worth living? And then you met Jesus, or on the flip side, maybe life was so good for you. It's like you had everything you could ever want, and yet something was missing, and then Jesus. I know this about you.
Hey everyone, it's Adam from Embrace. If you enjoyed today's message, make sure to subscribe to Embrace's YouTube channel to stay updated. You can also click here to check out other videos. Thanks for watching.